majority of Americans shared the
Good morning, everybody.
expressed in this op-ed that had no bearing on the discussion. In the letter and the town hall meetings, the rebels wielded the word truth as if they owned it. By their lights, Cotton had lied, and the fact that the public approved his lies was precisely what made his peace dangerous. 2 weeks after the Cotton controversy, the Times published an essay by Wesley Lowery, a Pulitzer Prize-winning black reporter, titled "A Reckoning Over Objectivity," led by black journalists. Equating objectivity with whiteness, Lowery called for moral clarity, which will require both editors and reporters to stop doing things like reflexively hiding behind euphemisms to obfuscate the truth. The Trump administration and the Republican Party, Lowery urged, should be labeled as what they are, a refuge to white supremacist rhetoric and politics. In the post-Bennett moment of post-journalism, editors of the paper were inclined to agree. Revolutions tend to radicalization. The same is true of social media mobs. They grow ever more extreme until they explode. But the New York Times is neither of these things. It's a business, and post-journalism is now its business model. The demand for moral clarity, pressed by those who own the truth, must increasingly resemble a quest for radical conformism. But for non-ideological reasons, the demand cannot afford to leave subscriber opinion too far behind. Radicalization must be
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
The final paradox of post-journalism is that the generation most likely to share the moralistic attitude in the newsroom.
February 5th, 1971, Black Sabbath discovery Cody Master Reality.
Andre Meir, who first defined the concept, sees post-journalism as a desperate gamble, doomed in the end by demographics. For newspapers and their multiple art forms developed over a 400-year history, Meir writes, the collision with the digital tsunami.
Again, good morning, everyone. I started a few minutes early today here on the Middleboro Review. Here we got the news coming up in just a minute.
If you missed any portion of the program or would like to listen to it again at your leisure, visit our website, ticnetwork.org.
Hey, Russell Wilson here, and I know how important exercise is. With Play 60, United Way and the NFL are helping kids stay active and play at least 60 minutes a day. But what this place needs is you. To donate or volunteer, go to unitedway.org/play60 because great things happen when we live united. Are you guys going to do that every time? Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
It helps find job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
and will give someone in my community
A second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
This is the Talking Information Center, a window to independence through local volunteers reading over 300 newspapers, magazines, and books specific to your community.
Now available on your smart speaker by saying, play radio station Talking Information Center.
For comments and more information, call 781-834-4400 or visit ticnetwork.org.
Thank you for listening.
WPBF Middleboro, WRS Middleboro, WRSLP Pittsfield, WLLO Londonderry, WVAO FM Athol, WDJM Framingham.
Broadcasting live from the
Phone's on.
Everything's good.
Church Green, we are AM 1530, WVBF Middleboro, Taunton, and W259DD, Middleboro Center, 99.7 FM.
No.
Hometown radio station.
I'm just gonna wait. Oh, that phone call. WVBF?
Good morning. Is this Joey?
Yes. Good morning, Danny. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I have a very clear signal on you. I hope it's not on my end here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
All right. I want to introduce you to my co-host, Don.
How you doing, Danny?
Don, that's good to see you.
Actually, he's my son. We're father and son team here. Believe
I
it or
just
not.
call him my co-host.
I've been,
I saw that your phone, when it came up yesterday, it was Don Driscoll. So it must have been his phone that you had.
I paid for his phone thing, so it's under my name. So
I see.
yeah, I think I'll do that for the rest of my life because I want him to call me. I guess that's the deal, right?
I do the same thing with my son. So
Yeah.
It's not atypical.
I heard your he's in Alaska. Your son, Robert, right?
Yeah, he was in Alaska. That was just a brief assignment that he had. He's working in Texas right now.
Okay, because you highlighted him on one of your videos when you went out to, I think you were doing the Tallahassee film there when you got caught on the wrong side of the train. So.
Yeah, that was a couple of them. That was an awfully fun trip. That's why I put so much effort into that video. He wanted to come with me on one of these things, and we made just a whole weekend out there. So it was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've been watching your videos for about about 5 years now, and then I got Joey. Yeah, I got Joey into it. So I pretty much watched them all, and the new one you did with Cordell, Georgia was awesome. It's just I think you're moving more towards Georgia now because you're running out of things to talk about in Florida. I guess I think you're looking for new horizons, right, Danny?
Well, I'm getting hammered now by the South Florida folks to come over there and do something on Brightline and Tri-Rail and the new Brightline extension that they're running between Cocoa and Orlando. So I may still have some more Florida content coming.
Oh yeah, but I like the Georgia too, and we spent some time in Folkestone. We spent a little time in Folkestone, and there's a little place in Lottie, Florida. I know you've been up 301 a lot. I've been up 301, and I rode that rails over the years too. But there's it looks like an old place that used to be like a souvenir place, and it says pecans all over it. It's a vacant piece of property. Are you familiar with that? It's in Lottie.
At Lottie?
Yeah, it's like it's an old. It's kind of like a old 1940s like a souvenir place, and it's vacant now.
Oh yeah. That used to be a Stuckey's.
Okay, right.
You remember the old Stuckey's?
Stuckey's.
The roadside tourist places. They had they had a grill, had hamburgers, and just stop and get lunch, and then they had a million pecan and other nut sundries there. It was kind of an oddball sort of place, but they had a bunch of them all across the South. Stuckey's. They had the big yellow roof.
Right.
And I don't know what that place has turned into now, but yeah, I remember the pecan sign now that you mention it. Cause it's funny because I always noticed that place on my way up to Folkestone.
Yeah, because you take 301.
Old Ford Crown Victoria parked in the parking lot there, and it had a blue bucket on the top. And I used to stomp on the brakes when I'd round the curve there and see that car. Because you didn't want to speed through Lottie. That was rule number 2. You never speed through Stark, and you never speed through Lottie.
Oh, Waldo.
Waldo too. Actually, it was Waldo and Lottie.
Yeah, I'd have to.
That's a bad rep. Their speed limit was lower, but they didn't have any cops.
Right. But the reason I mention that is because the S line, I believe that's the S line, which runs through those towns back there. It's right there. I was there in October because my mom passed, and I was coming back that way. And I got out and I walked out back. The S line, it's right there. It's right there. It's right behind that building. The tracks.
It's right there. It's absolutely right there.
What a great little calf would be a great little. I was thinking to myself, that'd be a great little rail fan calf if you have Someone ever opened that place up.
It'd just be awesome. And the nice thing about that is you're still north of Stark. Well, actually, that's not so much of an issue anymore. But that's the most traffic you'll see on the S line in that stretch there between Stark and Baldwin. So that would be an awesome place there.
Right.
If that ever came available.
Okay, he's
All right, we got 1 minute
he
here.
told me 1 minute. We got to do our. You got to do the weather real quick with a couple minutes, Joey.
Yeah, I gotta do the weather real quick.
And then we'll
yeah,
go
we'll
right into you.
right in.
Appreciate you calling. It's awesome. It's an honor that you're calling because your work is unbelievable. And I guess I'll ask you on air, I guess, about your documentaries.
Do you guys have a lot of real fan listeners?
We talk a lot about rail. And there's a lot of people who are interested in rail issues.
Older people, anyway, like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's just interesting because that's not kind of an esoteric topic for a broadcast radio show.
All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Middleboro in Review. Today is the 7th of February. It is Super Bowl Sunday here in Taunton. It's Tampa, and also in Tampa. Coming up here today, the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that should be a fun matchup. Let's really quick check on the weather. And we have a special guest on the line. So as soon as we check on the weather, we're going to say hello to our special guest. So Driscoll, Texas, currently 45 degrees. High of 76 today. Pretty nice weather throughout the week. 80, 83, 82 on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, respectively. Now that we are into the winter, Driscoll, North Dakota is in the negatives. 19 degrees in the negative currently. With only a high in the negative of 7. So very cold today. And in Taunton, here in Taunton, 26 degrees, 38 for the high, and 20 for the low for tonight. And Middleboro, 27 degrees, 38 for the high. And now let's say good morning to our guest, Danny Hartman. Good morning, Danny. I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. In Tampa, we're all ready for Super Bowl, and we just had a big storm front pass, and that was kind of giving everybody acid indigestion this week. We didn't know when that front was going to go through, but it's already passed. The high today in Tampa is supposed to be 72. We're supposed to have sunshine by the afternoon, and it's just supposed to be a beautiful, beautiful day for kickoff. So we're all very excited about that.
Hey, Danny, this is Don. Do you like the gift that we gave you, Tom Brady?
Yeah, so Tom Brady came to Tampa.
We could not be more appreciative of both Tom Brady and Gronkowski. They both have turned out to be really nice assets for the Buccaneers.
It's good that Tampa Bay could be winning again, so that's great.
Oh gosh, it's just been like a dream. The way those guys have played, and Brady actually said this week he's gonna keep on playing. You know, the fear here in Tampa was that he would get through the Super Bowl and retire. But he said that he's going to keep on playing as long as he can. So we'll see after today. But,
yeah,
we are very excited about all this.
That's good, and it sounds like the temperature's nice and whatnot. But we were talking off air, and we do appreciate you calling. And Joey, how you doing with the kind of
levels are a little.
Work on the levels.
Yeah,
He's
a
working
little
on
bit.
levels. Give us a
little bit
yeah,
here weird today, but
whatever.
that happens.
I was just okay. You got the mic there. A documentary. You've done a lot of documentaries, Danny. There was a couple I noticed on YouTube. Is that something you started before you started doing the YouTube rail fanning videos?
Yeah, I'm a TV producer by trade, local TV and news production, and a lot of news marketing on the air, which we call promos. You know, those are the commercials that you see on the air on local stations, telling you how great our news is, how much better our news is than the guys across town.
Right.
And I've done that pretty much my whole career, but I've also been a big rail fan. I've been a huge railroad fan my whole adult life, and I started getting into doing these little mini documentaries over 20 years ago. I started working on my first one in 1995, and those were still the days of the large cameras and the large equipment. In those days, TV cameras, even portable TV cameras, were still $50,000, and independent producer couldn't afford anything like that. So I had to kind of beg and borrow time from guys who had access to that equipment, and I shot a couple of documentaries. One on our Bones Valley phosphate operations. They do a lot of phosphate mining out here to the east of Tampa in Polk County and Hardy County. And they haul all that out by rail. That's a big CSX operation out there. And so I did a documentary on that. And that released that first on VHS and then later on DVD. And then 2 years later, I did one on the Tropicana juice train, which in those days used to run daily. Tropicana, the big plant, the big orange juice plant they have South Tampa in Bradenton, they produced an awful lot of orange juice down there in those days. And they used to send out a 60 to 65 car train 5 days a week between Tampa and Kearney, New Jersey, where their distribution plant is. New Yorkers and I guess you guys in New England apparently take a lot of Florida orange juice. So I did a documentary on that. And then when the advent of the desktop editing came about, it's actually Apple who really came out with the first practical desktop editing system, that was affordable for, the average person. I say affordable, it cost me almost $4,000 to get into that originally. But still, that was in range of, what somebody could afford, and that allowed me to start, on more ambitious projects, because I had my own camera. I had to learn how to shoot myself. The original Canon Handycam line of cameras, that were inexpensive and shot very good pictures. And that allowed me to do my own stuff, and I've just kind of learned from that over the years, and I've evolved it. And then, I think it's around 2007 when YouTube came onto the scene, and, everybody could put their own videos up on YouTube, on the internet, and have them published and have them accessible to anyone with a computer at that time. If you could get online, you could see videos, and I thought, well, this could be interesting. There wasn't any way to make money at it in those days, but still, I thought of it, as a way to reach the rail fan community, at least tell our story about what we're doing on the rail fan scene in Florida, and so I kind of exploited that as much as I could, in my spare time. It's there's always a balancing act between your job and your family, and then your hobby. And I guess probably any golfer or fisherman knows how delicately that balancing act is. But I got a lot of things done, and it's just really taken off now. And ironically, this COVID lockdown, this horrible event that's befallen us over the past year, has been the biggest boon to YouTubers that we've had so far, because people have just had unlimited amounts of spare time on their hands to sit and watch videos. And I have heard from people literally all over the world. I answer email every single day from people all over the world. And you guys up there in eastern Massachusetts are just the latest example. So it's been a good thing.
I've been looking at some of your videos, your recent ones, actually from 6 months ago, and I'm looking at the views, and it's like 125,000. It's just compared to what people were looking at just a year ago. But like you said, people are locked in the houses, and they might find something that's interesting. And it's like binge watching a program. I mean, you even said that a bunch of people watch your whole library of videos, and you got to have more than 50 on there. I'll say anyway. I mean, I'm looking for more and more.
I think it's getting close to 200 now.
200.
I don't know what the number is. I should have checked that before I came on with you guys, but
maybe
I think it's getting close to 200.
Wow.
Somewhere in there.
Wow. I don't think I've missed any, so maybe I've missed count, but I think I know I've watched them. I've had to watch all of them because I keep looking for new ones, and the new one that you've done was about a month and a half ago on Cordell. That was a lot longer. That was a 45-minute video of your own, and then you did the Jacksonville reruns, you did the Juice Train, you did all those older movies too, which I think was big demand as far as what people wanted. Longer videos.
Huge response for those old DVDs. I got an old player that would play that Sony DV Cam tape, which ironically I've got all these tapes that I shot in the 1990s and early 2000s, and I haven't had a machine that I could play that stuff back. And I got to thinking back in the fall, I couldn't get out, very much during the fall just because of a whole bunch of stuff going on. And I said, what if I just rerun those old shows of mine intact? And I've had a lot of good response from those. A lot of good response. So that's been a real kick.
I really love the Jacksonville one. I'm really fascinated about Jacksonville, and it's just a mega hub of rail activity as far as the three railroads that run through there. And I've ridden the train down over the years. I must have gone from Boston to, my mother lived in the Tampa area for years, so I remember running the S line years ago before they discontinued that and they ran it up. But I'm kind of confused. I'm still trying to figure out. I'm looking at maps, and it's kind of difficult. And I'm good at maps, but road maps. The S line is the one that runs through Lottie and Stock and down to Ocala. The A line, is that the one that runs down to Sanford and Orlando?
Correct. And you're talking about the S line and the A line, and those refer to the predecessor lines that CSX absorbed when they came into being in the early 80s. S line being for Seaboard, the old Seaboard main line, which ran Richmond, Virginia, all the way to Tampa and then to Miami. And then the A line, which comes also from Richmond, Virginia, also to Jacksonville. But then when it gets to Florida, it kind of runs the eastern way. It runs through DeLand and then to Sanford, then comes into Orlando from the east, and then runs to Kissimmee, and then Auburndale, and then Lakeland, and straight on into Tampa. That's all still intact. But the S line is the kind of western, more westerly route. That's the old Seaboard main, and that comes out of Baldwin, west of Jacksonville, and runs Lottie, Stark, Ocala, Wildwood, and then into Tampa.
Yeah, I've been up that road many times. I've driven that road many times. Actually, I was just on that road in October coming home. But and they cross in Plant City. Those two lines cross. Is that where they cross? Is that the junction?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Right.
A line, both of them headed from Jacksonville into Tampa. They cross at Plant City, and then they both go within about a quarter of a mile of each other in Tampa, and ultimately end up the same place at the Tampa Union Station there. So it's kind of funny. That's what got me interested in the history of all these lines, is how these two complete independent companies in the late 1800s, stomping their way into Florida. Both of these guys, both the seaboard side, the predecessors, Florida, Central, and Peninsula, and earlier, and then of course Henry B. Plant with his Savannah, Florida, and Western, which later became the Atlantic coastline. Both of them, headed towards Tampa, and the deep water port that was there, and all of the trials and tribulations that were involved in getting those railroads into town.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've had the pleasure to run the railroad and run actually the S line, because there's no more passenger rail on that anymore. They did away with that again. One more question, and we got to take a quick break, and just hopefully you'll stay on with us because it's fascinating, Colin. But the Florida East Coast Railroad, that's a totally different set of tracks, right? That's more like
totally different set of tracks over there. Still comes out of Jacksonville. It's ironic, they all three of them come out of the exact same spot in Jacksonville. Literally, you can stand on the spot where they all three come out of. But Florida East Coast was the brainchild of Henry Flagler at the same time, late 1800s, and his goal was to get to, ultimately, to Key West, which he did, but his terminus at the bottom was really Miami. And at that time, there wasn't any real Miami at all. He is the guy who really is the guy who created the city of Miami by bringing the Florida East Coast Railroad down there.
Right, because Tampa was the biggest city there for the longest time, because you even mentioned that on the S line, that was the same alignment that Teddy Roosevelt rode down when he was heading to Cuba. Rough Riders.
Exactly.
They rode those.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And then there was a bit of a rivalry between those two millionaires, between Flagler and Plant, in those days. And Flagler is reputed to have said, "Why don't you come on down to Miami sometime?" To Plant, and Plant said, "Miami, where is that?" And Flagler said in response, "Just follow the tourists. You won't have any problem."
Nice. Joey?
Another spot that you talk about quite a bit is Folkestone, Georgia. And me and Don have been to Folkestone once. And it's a really huge spot for rail fanning. Tell us a little bit about that.
I could talk to you at length about Folkestone, Georgia. Do you need to take this break first so we can get going on that?
Yeah, we'll take the quick break and we'll be right back here on Middleboro in Review. And you were listening to Danny Hardman, and we'll be right back here on Middleboro in Review. All right, commercial break.
My name is Harmon, by the way, Harmon.
Oh, Harmon. Okay. Not Harmon. All right, sorry about that.
What do you call him, Hartman?
Yeah, yeah. It does happen. It does happen.
Don't get him.
No, it does.
Don't get him confused from Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
I could talk forever with you, Danny. I really appreciate you calling, and this is great because I know you probably have a lot of people calling you, and you probably want your time, and to call us on a Sunday morning at 7 is awesome. I know you're an early riser, but one question: how many miles you got on the expedition? Do you still have it?
Well, this is my third expedition.
Oh, okay.
I I ran the wheels off of my first one. It was a 98, and I ran the wheels off of that at about 241,000.
Okay.
And then I bought a blue one, a blue 2002, and it didn't go as far. It wasn't as well built a machine for some reason. I put about 180 on that one. But this one I haven't put that much on it. It didn't have many miles when I bought it. It only had about 18,000 miles when I got this one. So I'm only up to about 129,000 miles on the current Expedition. So.
Wow. Yeah, those served you well. I guess you're a Ford guy, right?
Well, I have been my whole life, but I've got to kind of hankering to switch over to a Toyota 4Runner. I have a friend who's got one of those, and it's really nice. And I'm giving some thought to changing vehicles here. It depends on what my wife says. You know, that's always the answer.
She's very patient, I guess. You said she likes to read, so I guess that's good because she accompanies you on a lot of your rail film adventures. That's awesome.
I've done a lot of stuff now, which she didn't used to, and I know she was suspicious of what I was doing out here and why I'd get up so early on a Saturday or Sunday morning and leave the house at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one day I sat her down in front of my computer and I said, "You want to see what I do? Here's what I do."
Yeah.
And I showed her the whole video through, and she went, "Wow, okay, that's it."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just trains.
Yeah, we
She's
spent
been extremely supportive.
we spent a little time in Altoona too. I know you've been to Altoona, right?
I have been to Altoona twice now.
Yeah. It's a busy railroad.
And it's just crazy up there, and beautiful terrain, and just a great place all the way around. I want to go back, but there's so many other places that I want to go. And I don't know when I'll be back to Altoona, but I want to really start going out west.
1 minute.
1 minute or so, yeah.
That's going to require some flying, and we can't do that right now.
Yeah. Have you ever been up to the Northeast, Boston, New York area before?
No, I have not rail fanning.
Right. It's a different animal up here. It's a different animal up here. It's a lot of passenger rail fanning.
Yeah.
But been in New York a number of times on business, but never doing any rail fanning, and that's what I want to do next.
Right. Well, if you ever come up and you need a guide, let me know. You call us. We'll help you out.
There's places like Canton Junction.
Yeah, there's places up here in Boston, too, that's pretty good.
And I'll tell you, that's what I have discovered going into this foreign territories that I don't really know much about, is the guide is the name of the game for me, because I've been into a couple places without
15
a guide,
seconds.
and
We got 15 seconds before we get on here.
okay.
All right, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, we're back here with our guest here on the 7th of February, 2021 for Middleboro in Review. And before the break, we were talking about Folkston, Georgia, and was saying that Folkston, Georgia is a really big spot for rail fanning.
Yes, huge. If you're going to talk about rail fanning hotspots, which is what we call them, you have to remember that when you want to go find freight trains or even passenger trains or any of the things that we love to do when we go out and do these things, and take our pictures and shoot our videos and things, we're usually in bad areas or really desolate areas, or really kind of rough parts of town, because railroads don't go through the upper crust section of towns, and they don't have malls near them, and they don't have even Walmarts or anything like that, because no one wanted to be near the railroads because they were noisy and dirty and everything else. And so you spend your first you're spend your first months rail fanning in these kind of shady, unseemly parts of town, chasing these trains down, and sometimes they get a little dangerous. And I had done that for years, and then I read an article in Trains magazine that talked about this hotspot, and it was Folkestone, Georgia. And I looked on the map and I went, well, that's not too far from Tampa. That's just a drive up I-75, and then you jump over on US 301. That takes you through Baldwin and then Callahan, and then you're in Folkestone. It's about a 4-hour drive from Tampa. So one day I had a day off, and I just jumped in my truck and drove up there. And I left really early in the morning and got there about, I guess, 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and could not believe it. This was 1995, and the sheer number of trains going through, it was nonstop. Boom, 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 one after the other, both directions. It was double-track main line, both directions. And, the other aspect of rail fanning is the waiting that you usually have to do for a train. Hours sometimes you'll wait for one train to come through, and not, these things don't run on precise schedules, and you can just spend whole big chunks of your day waiting on one train. But to be in a place that had all this action going past you non-stop, it seemed like, was just great. And on top of that, it was in the middle of what amounted to a downtown city park. These two big railroad tracks running through this city park on either side. It was 100 feet on either side of these tracks. It was just incredible. Tiny little town in Georgia, just over the Florida-Georgia line. And almost nothing in this town. There was a couple of gas stations and a couple of motels. And there was a lumber mill that was, just out of town, but really not much else in this tiny little town, and it was just perfect. No cops hassling you, no traffic, that you had to keep dodging. Just a beautiful place, and I have been attracted to Folkestone, Georgia ever since, just for its the ability to light down on a place for a whole day or a whole weekend and watch trains just nonstop, and not be bothered by anybody. And you bring a lawn chair, and now people bring picnics and those pop-up tents, and just stay for the day. It's just a beautiful place, and it's one of the rarest places around. There's a lot of train watching platforms that have popped up in the last 15 years. The towns have taken advantage of the tourism of this, but still, you're not in always the nicest parts of town. There could be a lot of traffic or a lot of industry or something nearby, but not in Folkestone. It's just like you're in I tell people it's like two big, busy mainline tracks in the middle of a golf course.
Yeah, Folkestone was really nice. I really thought it was nice. They got that old train station. It looks like they got a museum there too. And as far as rail fanning, you are right. It has become a destination and economic engine for towns like Folkestone. These small towns that no one would really go to because, no one takes 301. 301 used to be the old 301 used to be the way you used to go up to north before the section of 95 was built. I remember going through Florida in 1975, and the southern part of 95 wasn't even done. I remember going through those towns as a young boy. But the economic that brings into these smaller towns, and just like food and buying gas and maybe hotel. I know there's a couple of you stay at a couple of little cabooses. There's little cabins right on and I think there's 3 or 4 of them. You featured that on one of your videos.
The McGurns, who own the Whistling Dixie store, it's kind of a coffee shop, tchotchke shop. I don't know how to describe it. She's got Bluebell ice cream there, and and coffee, and they serve lunch. They serve light lunch there, and they've got all kinds of souvenir stuff. They do picture framing. It's a great little shop in downtown Folkestone. But they also got into the lodging business a few years back. They bought a couple of old cabooses. They bought a couple of large tool sheds, I guess, for lack of a better word, and fitted them inside as bedrooms. And they've got a little bathrooms in them. You know, they're like their own little motel rooms, and they're right on the railroad tracks. They're right there. So if you can tolerate the noise of the train horns and the shaking that goes on overnight, they're just awesome little places to stay. And the more of that pops up, the better. But you were talking about Folkestone and US 301. Before I-95 was built, Folkestone had 19 motels in that little town. You know, in about a mile-and-a-half stretch, they had 19 motels. I mean, everything, Howard Johnson's, Holiday Inn, Ramada, Quality Courts. I mean, every brand that there was in Folkestone, Georgia. They had, at the Howard Johnson's, they had all-you-can-eat clams on Friday. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I do. When I was younger, sure.
That was a big deal. But, you know, just like everything else, I guess the business people had calculated that a drive from 301, you could only make it so far in a day when you were driving. And you remember in those days, the speed limit, the national speed limit was 55 miles an hour. And it really was tough to get a long way in a day. It's not like now. You jump out there on I-95 and you can literally go 95 miles an hour and nobody bothers you.
Right.
But in those days, if you got much over 60 miles an hour, the cops would be all over you. And plus, there were all those towns that you had to slow down and stop going through with all their traffic lights and stuff. So travel back then, people don't remember how difficult travel was back then, you know, over long distances. I mean, a trip from New York or Boston to Florida was going to take you a couple of days at least, and the slower drivers would take 3 days to make the trip, whereas now you can make it in 14 hours.
Right. I mean, I've done the trip from the Tampa area. My mother used to live in Newport Richie, and 2 days to Mass is pushing it. It's a long day.
And that would still wear you out.
Yeah,
2 days. You know, you'd sleep at some motel place. You know, some motel town.
You usually make it to Emporia, Virginia.
There were a few of those. Ocala was another one that had a ton of motels.
Right.
And Ocala still does, because when they put I-75 through, they put it through Ocala. And so Ocala didn't take the hit that other small towns did when the interstate highway system.
But 301 did. 301 took a big hit going up through the S line. I mean, I could see all those old motels all the way up to Baldwin. That was the main route out. That was it.
No, that was how you got out of Florida into the Northeast. 301 and US 1, you know, on the far eastern side. But caramba, you know, that was how you got in and out of Florida to the Northeast. That must have been just jamming in the spring times and the late fall, you know, when the snowbirds would come down. I can't imagine what that was like.
Right. One other thing too, I forgot to ask you earlier, but you did a documentary on, I think it was the name was The Way It Was, about the steam, about these people who bought a steam locomotive and they moved it. When did you do that documentary? That looks like that's a long documentary. That looks like it was done for like PBS or something you could have saw on PBS. Did that air on anything like that? Any stations like that?
Oh, are you talking about the one, and then there was one?
Then there was one, yes, that one, yes. That's hosted by you. I'm just looking for a date on that. I was wondering when you did that.
That was done, I'm just just guessing now. I've done about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And that was done by a friend of mine who used to live over in Pinellas, and now he lives up in the Smoky Mountains. I think he's in Tennessee somewhere. Evan Loftback, and he's a big rail fan. And I only did the narration on that. I just did the narration on that, and that was the moving of that steam locomotive and bringing it to restoration. And don't ask me the number on it now because I can't remember.
401.
Yeah.
I think it was 401.
That was the story that he documented.
Right.
He did all the shooting on that and the documentary of bringing that thing out of mothballs wherever they had it into the the restoration and all that stuff. Restoring those steam locomotives is a massive undertaking now that requires a lot. If a museum's doing it, it requires just thousands and thousands of volunteer hours, and it requires a lot of expertise because no one makes anything for steam locomotives anymore. It's not a thing. It's not a business. It's not an industry. There are no steam locomotive makers of any kind, to my knowledge. And so all that stuff that's broken on those old steam locomotives has to be made from scratch. And you've got to have some serious skill to do that stuff. And, the steam locomotives were maintenance intensive anyway, and that's, of course, why diesel, when that came onto the scene in the late 40s, started to knock those out because railroads saw the efficiency of diesel, and they said, hey, we can do away with a lot of maintenance and a lot of the trouble of keeping these things running. But anyway, that was a documentary. It was called And Then There Was One.
Yeah, that was
that was by my friend Evan Loftback. That was a fun show.
That was a great documentary.
I didn't work on that show. I just did the narration on it, but he just did a beautiful job on that.
Well, if you type your name up on Wikipedia you go on Google, that pops up first.
Yes.
That documentary. So that's.
Oh, you type my name?
I've typed that name. I typed your name up, and I don't write rail fan, just your name, and that pops up.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I found it.
I need to talk to the people at Google about that. I wish Distant Signal would come up. That's the name of my YouTube channel. Distant Signal.
I think it does if you look further. I think it does. That's how I found that, because I was wondering if you did anything else.
Well, my friend Jim Herron of Herron Rail Video. There's a bunch of rail producers here in the Tampa and Central Florida area, but Jim Herron was the big one over the years. It was he and Pentrex and Green Frog back in the VHS days were the three big players in this country, and Herron Rail Video just did dozens and dozens of VHS tapes, documentaries on different rail fan subjects.
Right.
Jim Herron's specialty was finding old 16 and 8 millimeter film that people had shot over the years. Of course, before the advent of Handycam camcorders, in the 80s, you had to shoot some sort of film, either 8 millimeter, Super 8, or the more well-to-do guys had 16 millimeter film, and there's a bunch of that out there. And Jim Herron has really developed a real skill for hunting that stuff down, transferring it to video, doing the color correction on it, and souping it up for HD. And he just does a good job on that. I've done a lot of his narrations for him on that, and I have to confess, I'll be reading some of that stuff about the Penn Central and the New York Central and L&N Railroad that he specializes up there in Kentucky and Ohio and Indiana and stuff. I won't have the slightest idea what I'm talking about when I get into some of those paragraphs and the old steam locomotive stuff that he specialized in. But Jim Herron he just is a master at that. At resurrecting that old film of stuff that's just not around anymore. That's the only way you can get it.
Yeah, I've seen some, and what got me into train documentaries it was called Locomotion narrated by Jack Perkins on the History Channel. Back in the 1990s.
Oh, yeah.
But that was my first dip into it. But the show we do is called Middleboro in Review, and we're in town, Middleboro and Taunton area, and we're South Coast mostly. But these two towns are pretty real. We got a big rail yard. We got one of the biggest rail yards in the South Coast area in Middleboro. And then Taunton has a throughway too. Years ago, the Cape Cod line, Amtrak used to run from New York to Cape Cod via the canal, and it used to run through Taunton. So there's a lot of history. So if you ever interested in this area, it's not like what you film as far as fast freights. Everything's limited in speed and stuff, but it's pretty interesting here. But Joey's telling me we got to take another commercial.
No, I'm just. I wanted to.
I'm sorry.
To say we have a major rail construction going on here in Massachusetts. A huge project, South Coast Rail. That's currently underway. That's in phase 1 of construction. It's going to be a major project that's going to be done at some point in the next decade or so. It's a pretty major project coming up here in Massachusetts, where we are.
I have heard of that project. I'm a big fan of railroad, the resurrection of rail, not only transit, but resurrecting rail through freight lines. That's why I know I'll probably anger some people with this, but I'm not a fan of the rails to trails culture, of taking these old rail lines out and turning them into hiking or biking trails, which sounds great, and it is great, for people who like doing that stuff. But when they do that, they eliminate future transit and freight routes. We can't keep making our interstates bigger. We're going to have to take advantage of some of these routes that exist, and that's why I'm hoping that we can put back in some of these railroad lines that have been lost over the years or abandoned. The states will have to do it, the states and the federal government, but I really think that's going to be the future of transportation in this country, is regional rail and long distance freight, one way or the other.
They wanted to put they were thinking about putting electrification from Boston to Fall River. There was supposed to be another line that ran off the Northeast Corridor, and there was a place called Canton Junction, which now that line runs as far as Stoughton and terminates. And they wanted to they were talking about electrifying that, which was a great idea. And I knew a couple Massachusetts legislators were for it. They weren't for this particular project that was going on because it's just, they figured it was a waste of time, and they voted against it. But they really wanted to electrify it, and I think it would have brought Fall River and New Bedford, like major players, cities, if it was electrified, because you can get down there probably 45 minutes. Up to Canton Junction's electrified anyway. I mean, as far as the Northeast Corridor, and they wanted to electrify it all the way down there. And I thought that would have been a great idea. What they're doing now, I don't know. They're running up through Middleboro and they're looping around. It's almost a 2-hour ride, close to it, to Fall River, and you can drive it with no traffic now because of COVID. You can be in Fall River from Boston in 1 hour driving in a vehicle, even on a bus. So I can't see.
That's the hurdle that rail transit is going to have to. It's going to have to get around. We have the same problem here in Florida. We've got some local rail. We have of course Tri-Rail down on the East Coast. That's 63 miles worth of commuter rail from West Palm to Miami. And then you've got now the Bright Line, which runs Miami. That'll eventually be to Cocoa Beach. I think they're only running to West Palm now or somewhere up there. Bright Line is pretty fast. Tri-Rail, on the other hand, is not. You can still drive I-95 faster than you can take a Tri-Rail. And plus, you got to be able to get around once you get off the train, and that's the other hurdle. And that's what Brightline is hopefully going to address is really fast transit between Miami and Orlando.
And privately owned, too, right?
I think if they can make that work, that is going to open some new doors, not only in Florida, but in all kinds of other places.
It needs to work. It needs to work. And it's privately owned. It's owned by Virgin, right? Virgin?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
privately owned.
they're kind of in and out on it, and I haven't seen the actual mechanical, the technical relationship between them. I know Virgin has kind of come in and out of it and then back in, and I haven't fully understood what that relationship is. But just like any private venture, they're getting funding however they can do it, and so I think Virgin was a real opportunity for them at one point.
Sure. Joey.
I want to throw this question out because
we got to take that.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a break in a second. We're gonna actually wrap up the interview here in a second. But this one question I want to ask is a memorable train ride that you have been on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Memorable train ride, I would have to say, were my 2 trips on auto train. That still, to me, is the most fun train ride that you can take. Now, I haven't been on the Western stuff. I haven't been on the Coast Starlight or the Pacific Surfliner or any of that stuff that runs up the West Coast. I understand that's just incredible. And I haven't been on the Chicago to Los Angeles run either. But my most memorable train ride was auto train. You get on that thing in Sanford, Florida. They put your car on an auto rack in the back, and you ride. And if you buy a sleeper, you sleep overnight in it. You wake up, you're at Lorton, Virginia, just outside of Washington. The food was great. The service was great. It was just a great ride, and we took it twice because of that. We drove up once and rode back, and then we took the train up the second time and drove back. So I can't recommend auto train enough for folks.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah,
I really
spending
do
the whole
appreciate
hour
it.
with us. That's very great. It's
you guys, I could talk to you guys forever about this. Please don't forget my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/distant signal.
Yes, I'd be looking for a new. Are you working on a new video now? I've been peering YouTube constantly looking for a new one. I'm kind of greedy.
I'm kind of piecing some stuff together. I promised folks I would do one on DPU, which is distributed power units on trains, and that's been a little bit bigger undertaking than I expected it to be. So
yeah, you've done a couple already.
Working on that right now.
You've done a couple of those already, DPU ones. Yeah.
Yeah, but nothing in the in-depth mechanics of it.
Oh, I
what
understand.
I'm trying to get into how it really works.
Right.
What it does.
Right.
That's been tougher.
Well, that's awesome. You're welcome to call. You got Joey's email number. If you ever come up this way and you need, if we ever go down to Florida, hopefully we can meet for lunch. That'd be wonderful. You know what I mean?
I'd love to do that, you guys, and I'd love to come up and see your part of the country up there too.
Yeah.
Maybe when it warms up a little bit. I don't have enough warm clothes for you guys right now.
Yeah, we're supposed to get 10 inches of snow, so you can stay in Florida. Enjoy the Super Bowl, Tony, and thank you very much for calling.
I don't even know what that looks like, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Danny.
It's a real pleasure.
All right, that'll do it. That'll almost do it for today's program.
Yeah.
When we return, we are going to have Today in History and everything else. And
yeah, maybe you can talk about real quick. I mean,
there is something I want to talk about.
Yeah,
real
you
quick
want to remind everybody about the blood drives.
Blood drives, yes.
And the grant that the fire department got.
All right, let's go. Well, we don't have time for that. I don't
Okay.
think. Yeah. We'll talk about it next week for sure. And there's some other huge things I want to talk about next week as well. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back here on Middleboro in Review.
Did he hang up?
Hold on. It's going to do it for phone lines today.
Did he hang up?
Yeah.
Send him an email at the end of the show. Tell him thank you very much for everything. You can wrap this up, right?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up right now. I got one commercial to do.
All right, well, I'll wait. Well, you can wrap it up. What a great interview. He's
Yeah,
awesome.
amazing interview. Yeah.
St. Vincent de Paul of Sacred
We'll have him on
Heart
again at
Church
some point.
serves the residents of the towns of Middleboro, Lakeville, Carver, and Rochester.
Morning, everybody. Hope everyone enjoyed that interview.
On Oak Street,
Danny,
directly
distant
across the
signal.
street from Sacred Heart Church in downtown Middleboro. At this time, we serve approximately 500 families in our service area, and many of them come to us for various types of aid. This can take many forms and include many of the following programs: utilities and rent assistance, agency referrals, clothing and furniture vouchers, and temporary lodging. For more information, go to svdbmiddleboro.org. May the good Lord bless you and keep you safe.
All right, we're back here on Middleboro Review. We got about 2 minutes and 15 seconds here left. Halifax has a blood drive coming up. Coming up, 499 Plymouth Street, Halifax, which is the town hall. It will be held at the Great Hall in the town hall, February 19th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Visit www.redcross.org to set up an appointment. 02338 is the zip code. The other blood drive is the 16th. Church of Our Savior, 60 Union Street, Middleborough, Massachusetts, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the number to give them a call is 508-947-1900. We just want to mention the passing of Leon Spinks. The man who beat Muhammad Ali in one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. He defeated Muhammad Ali to win the undisputed heavyweight championship in 1978 in a split decision. It's regarded as one of the biggest boxing upsets in history. He was later stripped of the title for facing Ali in an unapproved rematch about 7 months later. He died on Friday at the age of 67. All right, today in histories. 1940, the second full-length animated Walt Disney film, Pinocchio, premieres. 2013, the U.S. state of Mississippi officially certifies the 13th Amendment, becoming the last state to approve the abolition of slavery. On this day in 2013, it was ratified in 1995, but certified in 2013. Other states of mention, Delaware in 1901, Kentucky, March 18th, 1976, and of course Mississippi, which we already talked about. 2 birthdays on this day. 1974, Steve Nash, the Phoenix Suns' great and current Brooklyn Nets head coach, and Steven Stamkos, the Tampa Bay Lightning great. He's currently still with them, still playing, coming off a Stanley Cup championship last season. All right, that'll do it for today's program. I hope everyone enjoyed the interview that we had and everything else that we talked about on today's program.
I want to thank Danny Harmon.
Hold 1 second. 1 second. I have to get your mic up.
I want to thank Danny Harmon for calling in. Wealth of information. He said he was a producer, pretty much. What's up, Joe?
You got 30 seconds.
Okay, I understand.
You can wrap it up.
I want to thank Danny.
All right, we will talk to you next week. We're going to talk more about the blood drives. We have a little bit of talk about the elections coming up in April. We're going to start talking about that a little bit, what positions are available and everything else. So, yeah, let's move on to the snow that we're going to get today. I hope everyone is ready for it. We're supposed to get a good amount of snow. I hope everyone is ready for it. And we will see you next week here on Middleboro Review. Valentine's Day. See you next week, everybody. Do a 3-minute news here. Alright. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed today's show, and we will be back next week. Bye-bye, everybody.